Wrath of Rakshasa is the new for 2025 Bolliger Mabillard dive coaster at Six Flags Great America. I think this ride may have the most complete layout of a dive coaster. It features the signature holding brake and an ultra steep plunge at the start. Then this is followed by 5 fast-paced inversions. But we've seen a few recent B&Ms suffer from rough rides. How does Wrath of Rakshasa ride? Find out in this review. Six Flags Great America has long had a great relationship with Bolliger and Mabillard. They previously had built 5 different roller coasters from the Swiss manufacturer, including the company's first coaster in Iron Wolf, the first inverted coaster in Batman the Ride, and one of their first hypercoasters in Raging Bull. In the early 2020s, Six Flags Great America began planning a dive coaster. The original layout was smaller, but the park wanted something bigger. So the proposed ride was instead sent to Fiesta, Texas, where it opened in 2023 as Dr. Diabolical's Cliffhanger. Just 1 year later, Great America announced their dive coaster would open in 2025. It would be named Wrath of Rakshasa. Loosely themed to a Hindu shape-shifting demon, this coaster is fittingly placed across from the Demon roller coaster. One of the most impressive things about this coaster is its location. It was placed in the plot of land formerly home to the Buccaneer Battle Splash Battle. That was the only ride lost for this new coaster. This was done by routing multiple elements above the midway and queue line to minimize its footprint. B&M did a brilliant job squeezing this much track into this little land. As a result, the ride looks great from the midway. There is so much kinetic energy with the ride cycling all around you. Then it looks awesome from a distance as well. That lift hill and drop still manage to be prominent on an already busy skyline. Then I love the colors. The royal blue track and yellow supports are a great combination. I was hoping this ride would be as well themed as Dr. Diabolical. That coaster is complete with not one, but 2 different pre-shows complete with animatronics. Wrath of Rakshasa is more akin to your prototypical Six Flags coaster. It just has some smaller touches. The idea is that the Rakshasa is an attraction at a traveling circus, so there are some banners by the entrance. The queue then has some signage explaining what a Rakshasa is, because let's be honest, most of us had no clue what they were before this ride. You then have some statues, with the best of them being a large crate with a demon inside it. And then the station has claw marks dug into it, as well as a series of banners hung from the ceiling. There isn't anything during the ride though, which I think is a missed opportunity. I would have loved a tunnel with a demon of some kind. This would have looked sick after the drop. Great America is one of the highest attended regional parks in the country. It usually is very busy. In its inaugural season, this coaster usually had the longest wait in the park. It typically was 45 to 60 minutes minimum, even on quieter days. On busier days, it could be even longer than that. That was even with this ride having a high capacity. It has and operates with 3 trains. Then each train seats a max of 21 riders, as they are comprised of 3 rows of 7. Dispatches were solid overall during my visit, but there were several points when it would double stack, so there is room for even better throughput in the future. What can you do to avoid the longest waits? This year, most people have flocked to Rakshasa at park opening. It would immediately have an hour wait at park open. To be near the front of that line, you needed to arrive at the park at least 45 minutes early. Otherwise, it was far more prudent to start with different rides such as Goliath that are walk-ons at park opening. The line would routinely die as park close approached. In one of my visits, it was a complete walk-on for the last half hour of the day. Even if it still has a line, it'll be much less than it was earlier in the day. The other way to avoid a long wait is to use the Flash Pass skip the line system. This lane routes you directly to the station. In 2025, Rakshasa was extremely limited on the Flash Pass. Earlier this summer, it was only available as a one-time option in the higher tier all-day Flash Passes, or as an ultra-expensive single shot. It was not even available with membership skip the line passes. As a result, you would board almost immediately if you had Flash Pass for this ride. When I double-checked before this review, I noticed it is currently not offered in any tier of the Flash Pass for Fright Fest. Great America has used a similar approach limiting Flash Pass with many of their other new rides throughout the years. However, I suspect this will change in 2026 onwards. Six Flags is switching over to Fastlane. If it is handled like the Legacy Cedar Fair parks, you will receive a wristband that allows unlimited use in all applicable rides all day long, even on their newest attractions. I imagine they will also make this ride eligible for membership and pass holders skip the lines. Subsequently, I imagine Rakshasa's fast lane line will be longer in the future. I also imagine more fast lane users will cause the standby line to move a bit slower than it did in 2025, but only time will tell. At the end of the queue, you are assigned a row. This has been very strict in the inaugural season, and I suspect it will continue in future seasons as well. Unlike a lot of dive coasters, there is no dedicated front row queue. The groupers fill the train front to back to accelerate the process. There is only one seating request they will honor. That is if you need one of the larger seats. These are the middle seat in both row 2 and 3. They are denoted by the red seat belts. To get the front, you need to be at the front of the queue when they start loading a train. I saw a few guests in standby try to let people pass them to get the front, but the grouper told them they either had to board or exit the queue. The only other workaround I noticed was to use the flash pass. Because of how limited it was in 2025, very few people were ever in the flash pass lane, so you can manipulate when you reach the end of the queue. If you were there right after the employee finished loading the prior train, you typically got the front. If you arrived while they were in the process of loading a train, they typically would put you wherever they were in the process, whether it be row 1, 2, or 3. I wish I could say your seat did not make a huge difference with Wrath of Rakshasa, but it probably has the biggest impact of any dive coaster. The forces don't vary too much across the train, but the smoothness sure does. Some seats in this coaster are super smooth. Others, to put it bluntly, are very rough. I got several rides in all rows. Any seat in the front is smooth. In row 2, the middle seats are also very smooth. The end seats have a bounce to them, but it is perfectly tolerable. These seats have more movement because they're cantilevered over the edge of the track. As for row 3, I got this row twice. Both times, I was on the end. It was brutal. The train violently shook in every single valley. These seats gave me a genuine headache. I would say I was in a bad train, but this lines up with what others have experienced. I don't know if the back middle seats are smoother, comment down below if they are, but I am so sorry if you get those back edge seats. This is frustrating because B&M's early coasters were smooth. Their dive coasters in particular are among the smoothest coasters out there. Several of their most recent coasters have had a bounce to them on the end seats, even their most recent dive coasters. With Dr. Diabolical at Fiesta, Texas, there are a few shaky spots, but most of that coaster is fine. With Iron Menace at Dorney Park, it has a noticeable rattle throughout, not enough to cause a headache though. Rakshasa's back edge seats are far rougher than any other dive coaster out there. Fortunately, this coaster does have vest restraints. If this ride had the traditional over-the-shoulder harnesses found on B&M's older coasters, this ride could produce some nasty headbanging. With the vests, you cannot hit your head, which is a saving grace. These harnesses consist of a thick bar around your pelvis and a stretchy rubber part above your upper body. If you're used to X-Flight, you may be worried seeing these vests. On that ride, the vests lock at dispatch, so they are very restrictive on your upper body, and they can be downright uncomfortable on your collarbone. The ones on Rakshasa are a newer generation. These vests have some give to them. This not only improves rider comfort, but it makes it easier to feel this ride's airtime and hang time, because you can actually fall out of your seat a bit. One other note before going into the ride experience. This ride has a really cool loose article system. It is a moving bin system like the ones found at Canada's Wonderland and Yukon Striker and Alpine Fury. You put all of your belongings on a bin on the load side. Then while you ride the coaster, it moves to the unload platform for you to retrieve everything. It is so considerate of the park to offer a ride just for your bags and loose articles, so they don't miss out on the fun. But all kidding aside, practically, these work well, since it allows guests to go straight to their seats when they board. Once dispatched, you turn out of the station and ascend a 180-foot or 55-meter tall lift hill. This makes it the park's third tallest coaster, just behind Raging Bull in flash vertical velocity. Once at the top, you have a slow leftward turn. This gives you ample time to take in a full panoramic view of the park. It is neat seeing how much coaster track this park packs in. You then engage a second chain, which doubles as the holding brake. You are then dangled over the edge of the drop for roughly 3 seconds. You are staring straight at the ground. This is a particularly freaky moment in the front row or on any edge seat because you're so exposed. Then, you're released. As with B&M's prior 2 dive coasters, this is a beyond vertical drop. It clocks in at 96 degrees, making it the steepest drop in both Illinois and any dive coaster, and you feel those extra few degrees. It is enough to produce a stomach drop sensation. I typically get that on a drop tower, but not a roller coaster. Then it offers great sustained floater air time as well. It is one of the best drops on a dive machine, and it's my second favorite drop in the park after the one on Raging Bull. The pullout offers very strong positive Gs. This is also the first spot shuffling if you're in those back edge seats. Get used to it if you're sitting there. The heavy Gs continue on the climb into the Immelman, so I routinely gray out here. The positives let up at the apex, resulting in some faint float at the flip. Then the pullout returns to the high positive Gs. This valley is particularly jolty though in those edge seats, probably the worst one in the ride. Next is a dive loop. It is a rare element for this model, but it's fun. It is basically the inverse of the prior element. You get a smidge of float over the top, then the descent and pullout pile on the positive Gs, and if you're on the back edge, you'll be rattling here once again. This leads into a 0G roll. This offers good floater all across the train. Then as a bonus, you get some nice laterals if you're in the edge seats due to the rotation. You see, the X of this element keeps on twisting counterclockwise as it transitions directly into a downward spiral. This offers some OK Gs and it rebuilds your speed. Now it is time for the final inversions, the demonic knot. I love this element and I wish more rides featured one. It is particularly fitting here considering the ride is themed to a demon. The first part feels like another 0G roll, offering some lovely floater. You also get some wicked head choppers with the track and supports. You then twist back for a barrel roll. This offers hang time. It is really good in the morning when the ride is running slow, but once the coaster speeds up, it's more like decent. There is a pretty noticeable jolt in the maneuver though. It feels like a track imperfection like the one in Dr. Diabolical's 0G roll. Most rough spots in this ride coincide with positive Gs. This is the exception. You are then whisked through a helix. This is positioned above the queue line. The train is still moving at a solid clip here, so it once again offers some respectable positive Gs. You then hit the brakes and return to the station, ending the 3,239 foot, or 987 meter long experience. This is pretty long for a dive coaster anyway. I specifically think this is the longest dive coaster without a mid-course. I love how this ride features a complete layout after that signature drop. Some of the other dive coasters can feel like one-trick ponies. In terms of pacing, this is the best of any dive coaster. Many of the larger installations like Rakshasa have a mid-course trim that brings the train to a near stop. This is done so riders can experience a second vertical or near vertical drop. Several smaller versions forego the mid-course and instead power through their layout. Wrath is the first large-scale dive coaster to take the second approach, and I like it. The layout does not have any dead spots or moments where you can catch your breath. What would I rate Wrath of Rakshasa? I would give this coaster an 8 out of 10. In most seats, this is an excellent dive coaster worthy of a 9 out of 10. The first drop is awesome between the theatrics and airtime, and that is followed by 5 forceful inversions, switching between strong positive Gs, negative Gs, and hang time. Then there are some fun turns and helixes mixed in as well. However, your experience is heavily dependent upon the seat, which is 100% assigned. There are some nasty seats in this ride, mainly those back edge seats. There are a lot of smooth seats in this coaster, so it does not seem to be a track issue. Since the issue seems relegated to the back row, specifically those edge seats, I really hope there is something B&M can do to fix this in the future seasons. The layout is excellent. I just wish you did not have a chance of coming off with a headache. I think this ride slides into my top 5 at the park. At its best, I think this is probably my second favorite dive coaster after Yukon Striker. I give that one a slight edge for the added size and consistency. But in those back edge seats, Wrath moves way down my ranks. With B&M building a giga-sized dive coaster next year with Tormenta at Six Flags Over Texas, I really hope they can fix the roughness issue on the back edge seats. I shudder to think how uncomfortable those rows could be on a coaster that tall and fast, because that layout certainly has a lot of potential otherwise. Those are my thoughts on Wrath of Rakshasa at Six Flags Great America. What are your thoughts on this coaster? How does it stack up to the other dive coasters for you? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I would really appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you consider subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.